All right, well, Oregon State had its spring, thing that they do each year.
Yeah, the
It's like a scrimmage.
spring showcase, if you will.
Yeah.
They haven't had a game in a long time.
So that should be noted. They don't really go big on their spring ball.
Mike Riley was there, though.
Yeah. And you know what he said when I saw him?
Where have you guys been?
You just decided to show up to the spring
I was down
game?
there covering it.
Just down there in the nitty-gritty?
Taking notes.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, Riley was there. So they don't put a lot into their deal like some other schools. So that should be noted. But at the same time, I saw a picture of the attendance.
It was rough.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Is it always like that?
Or
is this worse?
Well, I mean, spring games in general out west, we don't do great. The Huskies and the Ducks put some butts in the seats. I watched a little of the Trojans, and it's tough to tell with big stadiums too. And a lot of times they just do like one side of the stadium. Look, I got to be fair. Like, not many programs outside of the Big Ten and the SEC put a bunch of butts in seats. That being said, this was bad. And Bill Orem wrote about it, and he's the columnist of the Oregonian, and he's taken a lot of flack. But I think his was that Trent Bray could go up and literally shake the hands of everyone in attendance. And
well,
still
it kind of looked like that.
It was, look, there were not thousands of people there.
No.
There were hundreds, maybe 1,000. It was sparse.
And wasn't it nice out there?
It was well,
nice day?
It was nice, and then it kind of turned south. That was like everyone else's. But I think his point was, you had the fiery letter earlier in the week, from management at Oregon State saying, hey, we're gonna come out of this, and now is the time to kind of rally the troops. And I think he was saying that this was maybe a time to kind of have a rallying party, bring back some old players. He brought back Mike Riley, but try to inject some life into a program right now that needs it, that the fans are maybe kind of licking their wounds a little bit. And it just came off as another unfortunate kind of dud of a spring game. But I don't want to take any shots, because I think this is largely the spring games for 90% of the teams in the country.
I feel like spring games, you get out of it what you put into it.
Yes.
And I don't feel like Oregon State puts a ton, and I'm not saying the team, I'm just saying the school. Like, they don't really promote it as like, hey, everybody come out and we'll have all this stuff for the kids. And they just don't do that. It seems like.
Yes.
So it's not fair to bash them for that. But I mean, come on. And we'll ask Scott Barnes this. I think he's coming on this week.
Yes.
How do you keep people engaged down there?
Yeah.
I mean, particularly if they suck this year.
It's tough.
I mean, if they suck and the weather turns, which it will, always does, the whole thing.
It's bad.
How low will attendance go? I mean, I was looking at attendance today. Do you know who the lowest Power 5? Wait, what are we to call it now?
Well, it's Power 4.
Well, I refuse to call it the Power 4.
Well, it is the Power 4. There is no 5. What else do you want to call it?
Well, I'm going to call it Power 5. And the reason I'm going to call it Power 5 is because people know what that means. Okay?
But there's no...
Whatever.
There is no...
The worst Power 5 attendance last season, do you know who it was? And do you have a guess on about how many they drew?
Worst Power 5? Oh, God. I'm not going to say it's because Washington State, small crowds, but, they do a good job at Martin Stadium. It's going to be someone like Vanderbilt or Rutgers.
Is Duke.
Oh, there you go, Duke.
Who averaged 25,000 fans a game.
Okay. Not good.
Oregon State last year.
They did a nice job.
They averaged 37,000 fans a game.
Okay.
61st in the country. They were not that far north of Duke.
Well, but Reeser doesn't,
right. Well, and Washington State wasn't that far north.
Yeah, because Martin Stadium's smaller than Reeser. They're just not big stadiums.
Correct, but Reeser holds more than Martin.
Yes, it does.
So, if Oregon State is not good next year in football, how low will attendance go? Will it be lower than Duke? Because I think it will.
It'll get bad. If I got to pull up the schedule because the Civil War this year obviously is early. If they get, is that before or after Purdue? I got to see how this shakes out.
They're playing Purdue again?
Yeah, they got Purdue.
Is it just me or are they always playing Purdue?
don't know if they're always playing Purdue, but they have played Purdue.
Was that a home and home, and this is a new home and home, or is this the second part of that? Because I know they played down there.
No, I think this is a new
home.
Oregon also had a home and home with Purdue as well.
Yeah, so they get Idaho State, and then San Diego State, and that's in. So they'll beat Idaho State on the road at San Diego State, and then they get Reeser with the Duckies.
Ooh.
If they lose to San Diego State, and I don't think they will. Like,
see that Duck game right there.
That's
where you
if
were saying rally like get everybody on board as best you can. It's that game right.
Yes. So it is imperative that you beat San Diego State, because if you lose to San Diego State, no offense, but look, weird things happen. I don't think that game is gonna go your way. I think we're operating on different wavelengths now when we're talking about those two programs. And if you lose to San Diego State, and then what happens at Reeser happens the way I think it's going to happen, you could go into that Purdue game, which is also at Reeser, and you could just see just empty across the board.
So three of their first four games are at
home.
Reeser.
Yes, Idaho State, San Diego's on the road, and then home to Oregon, home to Purdue, actually home to Colorado State. So
for the first five. That's good. Weather could be better.
Yeah. So you gotta build some momentum. You do. You got to beat San Diego State. You got to beat Purdue. Otherwise, you're going to get to the end of the year when you're playing the San Jose States, when you're playing even Washington State.
Yep. Bad weather, bad record. San Jose State comes to town. Oh boy.
Yeah. It's.
Oh boy.
It may not be pretty.
Do you know what the worst college football attendance overall was?
Worst overall?
Yeah, they were. It was at Akron. Do you know how many they drew?
I don't know. 6,000.
7,000 fans.
And that's what they're saying, which means probably 3,500 rolled in there. I have a sneaky belief early on, Beaver fan is going to rally. They're not going to go quietly into the night. I think Beaver fan is going to show up. I just hope that the product on the field is enough to keep them around. I hope so. And I don't take anything from the spring game. Like, offensively, it wasn't pretty. Both quarterbacks are bleh, but it's so early and not everyone's playing, and it's a new system. I take jack squat from the spring game. I hold out hope that the Beavs are going to be okay and that you're going to fill some spots. I just think that with the turnover and most of your significant players that you were relying on with this side of Joshua Gray are gone. Hopefully he sticks around. Look, I just think against the Power 5 teams, especially Oregon, I just don't think you're going to have the horses. And but remember, a lot of your competition isn't, it's not Power 5. So even though you have a reduction in your overall talent, the San Diego States and, to Colorado States, Nevada, UNLV, San Jose State, Air Force, Boise, this shouldn't be, this giant talent gap. I mean, the only one that you're going to walk on the field with and probably be like, damn it, is Oregon. And, outside of that, I would assume that from a talent standpoint, you're going to be competitive or have an advantage over most of the teams. So then that comes down to, what's the coaching staff? What's the plan? How quickly can you get guys to gel and see what you can put out there? I think it's just a big fat question mark. And I'm going to be fascinated to see how it goes. But I have faith that Oregon State will rally the troops from a fan perspective, at least at the start of the season.
Yeah, research capacity, 35,548.
Yeah.
And that's down, right? Since they completed.
Yeah, since they completed. So that was basically a sellout for every game.
And then Martin Stadium is 32. That's Washington State. 32,952.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that they were that close. I thought Oregon State was much bigger. Well, not much bigger, but
Old Reeser
in the 40s.
Old Reeser was bigger.
Yeah, it was like 45 back then.
But,
taking out seats. Remember when I was yelled at by a local columnist? Well, I was because, yelled at's harsh. Questioned. But when they put up the new side, now the old side at Reeser, I was like, man, they don't have enough people to put in those seats. And they were like, well, they're going to grow into it. What do you think about that, Rob?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, we'll see. I mean, I get what you're saying, but they never did.
Yeah. No. Well, and there's, I mean, Oregon has talked about people like, oh, why doesn't Autzen expand? And we've heard from plenty of time.
Their AD came out and said, I think we're good.
Yeah, dude, growing into a stadium is filling a stadium is hard, period. And adding thousands of seats. Washington is a big time program, and they, not by a ton, but they went smaller when they redid Husky Stadium. Dude, there's not many fan bases, especially west of the Mississippi, or let's say west of Texas, that are drawing 70,000 people. I mean, my God, how many times do we have to watch the Coliseum or the Rose Bowl and have to rope off the top part of it, and it still looks sparse? There's just not a lot of fan bases right now that are pouring in to stadiums, but I research at this size is perfect for Oregon State, and they filled it last year, and God willing, fingers crossed, they fill it again, and the team gives them something to keep coming back.